They were once athletes, leaders, businessmen, even trusted citizens. But now they're among America's most wanted fugitives. From the snowy slopes of Canada to the streets of Port-au-Prince and the back alleys of Ohio, these men vanished into the shadows after committing some of the most shocking crimes in recent history. Each one carries a price on their head and a story that reads like a Hollywood thriller. In this video, we dive into the lives and manhunts surrounding 4 of the most elusive criminals still on the run today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more gripping true crime stories. The first case is about one of the most wanted criminals in the United States. Ryan James Wedding was born in 1977 in British Columbia, Canada. He grew up surrounded by the breathtaking mountains and crisp air that naturally led him to fall in love with winter sports, especially snowboarding. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, Ryan had climbed the ranks to become one of Canada's top competitive snowboarders, eventually earning a spot on the national Olympic team. To the outside world, his life looked like a dream come true. He was young, talented, and on the world stage representing his country in a sport he loved. But underneath the glory, there was a different story, building one that would eventually turn him into one of the United States' most wanted fugitives by 2025. After his snowboarding career stalled, Ryan's life took a sharp turn. Without the structure and excitement of professional competition, he struggled to find a new direction. At first, it was small-time hustling, using his fame to rub elbows with wealthy partygoers, entrepreneurs, and some less savory characters. Over time, those connections deepened. Ryan saw an opportunity in the underground world that offered the same rush he used to get from racing down a mountain at breakneck speeds. Only now, the stakes were a lot higher. Authorities say Ryan built and led a massive international drug trafficking network, one that stretched from South America all the way to cities across North America and Europe. According to federal indictments, he was not just a middleman or a peripheral figure. He was allegedly at the center of a continuing criminal enterprise coordinating multi-million-dollar shipments of cocaine and other drugs. The operation was sophisticated, using advanced communication tools, insider contacts at shipping companies, and layers of money laundering schemes to keep the business flowing smoothly. Investigators believe he had a hand in corrupting officials, setting up shell companies, and even hiring muscle to protect his shipments. Things escalated even further when violence entered the picture. Prosecutors have accused Ryan of being involved in at least one murder connected to the drug operation. Court documents claim that when rivals or informants threatened to expose the network, Ryan was willing to order hits to protect his empire. This is not just a case of a failed athlete dabbling in crime. The U.S. government alleges that he became a kingpin willing to use deadly force to maintain control. In 2025, the FBI officially added Ryan James Wedding to its 10 most wanted fugitives list. His charges include conspiracy to distribute and possess with intent to distribute controlled substances, conspiracy to export cocaine operating a continuing criminal enterprise murder in connection with a continuing criminal enterprise and attempted murder. To highlight how seriously authorities are taking his case, the U.S. Department of State is offering a reward of up to $10 million for information leading to his arrest. That figure puts him in the same league as international terrorists and cartel bosses. It shows just how deeply federal agencies believe he has embedded himself in a network that threatens public safety on a massive scale. Despite the intense manhunt, Ryan has so far managed to evade capture authorities. Suspect he is using his international connections to stay off the grid, possibly hiding out in countries without extradition agreements with the United States. Some investigators believe he may have undergone cosmetic surgery, changed his identity, and continued funding his fugitive lifestyle with hidden stashes of drug money. Others think he may be moving frequently between safe houses, relying on a tight circle of loyalists who owe him their fortunes. Those who knew Ryan during his snowboarding days find it hard to reconcile the man they remember with the criminal mastermind described in federal warrants. Back then, he was seen as charismatic, driven, and full of potential. But somewhere along the way, the love for adrenaline, competition, and risk took him down a path from Olympic, hopeful, to international fugitive. The hunt for Ryan James. Wedding continues to capture public fascination because his story is not just about crime. It is about how quickly a life filled with promise can spiral into chaos and danger. His face now appears on wanted posters and government websites, a stark reminder that no matter how high you climb, it is possible to fall even further. With a $10 million reward on the table, it is only a matter of time before someone steps forward with the information needed to bring him in. Until then, Ryan remains one of the most elusive and dangerous fugitives pursued by American law enforcement today. The next wanted criminal has been named one of the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives. Vitelhomme Innocent was born sometime in the early 1970s in Haiti, in a tough neighborhood where survival often meant choosing between a life of poverty or a life of crime. Growing up in the streets of Port-au-Prince, Vitelhomme quickly learned that power belonged to those who took it. As he got older, he became known for his ruthlessness, his ability to lead, and his sharp instinct for survival. By his 30s, he had built a fearsome reputation in Haiti's underworld, eventually founding the gang known as Craze Barrier, a group that would become infamous for kidnappings, extortion, and murder. Vitelhomme's rise came during a period of chaos in Haiti where the government was weak and gangs ruled the streets. Entire neighborhoods were under the control of criminal organizations, and Craze Barrier became one of the most violent and influential among them. Under his leadership, the gang operated like a militia heavily armed and willing to clash not just with rival gangs but with Haitian police and government forces. What set Vitelhomme apart was his ability to combine brutal street tactics with careful planning. He was no ordinary thug. He built alliances, made deals with corrupt officials, and turned Craze Barrier into a major player in Haiti's criminal economy. It was not long before Vitelhomme's actions drew international attention. In 2021, his gang was involved in the brazen kidnapping of 17 American missionaries, including children who had been working in Haiti to provide humanitarian aid. The abduction made headlines across the United States, sparking outrage and calls for immediate action. The captives were held for ransom, and although most were eventually released, the operation marked a turning point. The U.S. government saw the kidnapping not just as a crime against its citizens, but as a direct attack on American interests abroad. Vitelhomme's name was suddenly on the radar of every major U.S. law enforcement agency. The charges against him are heavy. He is accused of conspiracy to commit hostage-taking resulting in death, and attempted hostage-taking resulting in death. These are not just paper charges. They reflect real human suffering, real terror, and a level of brutality that shocks even those used to working in law enforcement. The FBI believes Vitelhomme personally orchestrated kidnappings where victims were beaten, tortured, and sometimes killed if ransom demands were not met. His gang terrorized neighborhoods, demanding money from local businesses and families in exchange for a fragile promise of safety. In November 2023, the FBI officially added Vitelhomme Innocent to its 10 most wanted fugitives list. Recognizing the seriousness of his crimes, the U.S. government announced a reward of up to $2 million for information leading to his arrest. This was a clear signal that bringing him to justice had become a top priority. Despite the reward and international pressure, he remains at large, likely protected by the very same violent network he helped create. Some reports suggest he moves between heavily guarded compounds in Haiti, blending into areas where even government forces fear to tread. Vitelhomme's story is a brutal reminder of how power can grow unchecked when governments collapse and lawlessness becomes the norm. In neighborhoods where people live with daily violence, he is both feared and in some twisted way respected. For many in Haiti, Vitel Home is not just a criminal, but a symbol of how far their country has fallen, where men with guns and no fear of consequences make the rules. Law enforcement agencies continue to search for cracks in his network, hoping someone will be tempted by the $2 million reward or pressured into cooperation. In a world where loyalty often lasts only as long as the money does, the clock is ticking. The FBI believes that eventually someone close to him will make a mistake or betray him for the right price. Until that happens, Vitel Home Innocent remains a ghost, a figure moving in the shadows, commanding fear from Port-au-Prince to Washington. D.C. The hunt for him is not just about one man. It is about sending a message that even in places where the rule of law has all but disappeared, crimes against innocent people, especially Americans, will not go unanswered. With every day that passes, the pressure tightens. Somewhere out there, the man who once built a criminal empire out of fear and blood knows that his time is running out. But for now, Vitel Home Innocent is still free, still dangerous, and still one of the most wanted men in the world. Coming to the next most wanted criminal. Lester Edward Eubanks was born in 1943 in Mansfield, Ohio, a working-class town where everybody knew everybody else's business. From a young age, Lester showed signs of trouble. He was no stranger to petty crime, getting into run-ins with the law before he was even old enough to vote. But no one could have predicted just how dark his path would eventually become. His name would one day land on the U.S. Marshals' 15 Most Wanted list, tied to one of the most chilling cases in Ohio's history. In November 1965, everything changed forever when Lester committed an unthinkable crime. He was convicted of the murder of a 14-year-old girl named Mary Ellen Diener. Mary Ellen had gone to a laundromat a few blocks from her home, a simple errand that turned into a nightmare. Lester, already known to the police for previous sexual offenses, followed her into the laundromat. What happened next was brutal. He assaulted and fatally shot her, a crime that shook the tight-knit community to its core. The horror of the case led to Lester's swift arrest and conviction. By 1966, he was sentenced to death. For a while, it seemed justice had been served. Lester sat on death row at the Ohio State Penitentiary, waiting for his sentence to be carried out. But in 1972, when the U.S. Supreme Court temporarily abolished the death penalty, his sentence was commuted to life imprisonment. That decision would prove to be a critical turning point in a story that would only get stranger. In December 1973, Lester was granted a temporary furlough, something almost unimaginable by today's standards. As part of a rehabilitation program, he was allowed to go Christmas shopping at a local mall without direct supervision. Prison officials believed he could be trusted to return on his own. He never did. Lester Edward Eubanks simply walked away from custody and disappeared. Over the next few days, authorities launched a massive manhunt, but Lester had a head start and possibly help. Tips came in sporadically over the years, some placing him in Michigan, others in California, but none strong enough to lead to his capture. He became a ghost, changing his appearance and lifestyle enough to avoid detection, blending into different communities, while law enforcement struggled to stay a step ahead. Theories about how Lester managed to stay hidden for so long vary. Some believe he was aided by family members or old friends who chose loyalty over justice. Others think he built a completely new identity, perhaps even living quietly as a husband and father, hiding in plain sight, while those who loved Mary Ellen were left to wonder if they would ever see justice. What makes Lester's story even more painful for the Diener family and the public is the sense that it could have been prevented. His escape, made possible by the system's misplaced trust, turned an already tragic case into a decades-long nightmare. In December 2019, Lester's case got renewed attention when the U.S. Marshals added him to their 15 most wanted list. With that announcement came a reward of up to $25,000 for information leading to his arrest. The hope was that money and publicity would finally flush him out of hiding. The case was also featured in television documentaries, podcasts, and news specials, all keeping his name alive and urging the public not to forget. Despite all the attention, Lester remains at large. Investigators believe he is still alive, possibly living under a false name, maybe even unaware that so many people are still hunting him. He would now be over 80 years old, but authorities caution that age has not erased the urgency to bring him to justice. To them, it is not just about an old fugitive. It is about keeping a promise to a young girl who never got to grow up, a family that never got closure, and a community that still remembers the night Mary Ellen Diener's life was stolen. The search for Lester Edward Eubanks continues across state lines and even across borders. Investigators dig through old leads, track down possible aliases, and chase down every tip, no matter how small. His face has been aged digitally to reflect what he might look like today, and his story is regularly reposted on social media in hopes that someone somewhere will recognize him. The Marshals make it clear that the passage of time does not make the crime any less horrific or the need for justice any less urgent. For them and for the family of Mary. Ellen Diener capturing Lester is about righting one of the longest-running wrongs in American criminal history. And finally, John Ruffo was born in 1954 in Brooklyn, New York, a borough known for its tough neighborhoods and even tougher people. From an early age, John was different from the street hustlers and petty criminals that often made the headlines. He was book-smart, charming, and knew how to navigate the world of business in a way that few could match. Those who knew him back then described him as friendly and quick-witted, a guy who could talk his way through almost any situation. But underneath that smooth exterior was a man who would eventually mastermind one of the biggest bank frauds in American history. In the early 1990s, John was running a small but legitimate computer company. Business was decent, but he wanted more. Along with an inside accomplice, he devised a complicated and daring scheme to defraud major banks out of hundreds of millions of dollars. They created a fake project for a major corporation, convincing lenders that they needed loans for top-secret research and development work. Armed with forged documents, fake business plans, and a convincing pitch, John managed to con some of the most respected financial institutions into handing over enormous sums of money. The scale of the scam was staggering. John Ruffo walked away with more than $350 million, a number that still boggles the mind even today. For a while, he lived like a king. Lavish homes, luxury cars, expensive vacations. John enjoyed the kind of lifestyle most people only dream about. But the good times did not last. In 1996, authorities caught up with him. After a high-profile trial, he was convicted on multiple counts of bank fraud and ordered to serve a 17-year federal prison sentence. Most thought the story would end there, but John had other plans. In 1998, he was supposed to report to a federal prison in New Jersey to begin serving his sentence. Instead, he made a final bold move. On the day he was due to surrender, he withdrew around $13,000 from his bank account, left his car in the long-term parking lot at JFK Airport, and vanished. Just like that, he disappeared off the face of the earth. No goodbyes, no trail, no explanations. Law enforcement agencies immediately launched a manhunt, but John had a head start and the kind of financial resources that made it easy to run. Over the years, there have been scattered sightings and tips. Some say he fled overseas to Europe or South America. Others believe he never left the United States, managing to create a new life under a stolen identity. In 2021, a major lead emerged when surveillance footage appeared to show a man resembling John attending a Los Angeles Dodgers baseball game. It reignited public interest, and brought fresh energy to the search. But still, he remained at large. The U.S. Marshals Service has placed John Ruffo on its 15 Most Wanted list, offering a reward of up to $25,000 for information leading to his arrest. They warn that he is extremely intelligent and resourceful, capable of blending into almost any environment he could be living quietly in a suburban neighborhood, working a modest job and flying under the radar without anyone around him knowing the truth about his past. What makes John's story so fascinating is not just the crime itself, but the way he managed to outsmart the system. In a world filled with criminals who get caught quickly, he has pulled off a vanishing act that has lasted decades. Even now, with all the advances in technology and surveillance, he remains one of the most enduring fugitives on record. It is a testament to his planning patience and perhaps a little bit of luck. The chase is far from over. Federal agents still actively investigate every credible tip, refusing to let the trail go cold. For them, finding John Ruffo is about more than closing a file. It is about showing that even the smartest con man cannot outrun justice forever. Somewhere out there, a man who once lived like a millionaire because of lies and fraud is still looking over his shoulder, knowing that one wrong move could finally bring his long flight to an end. Despite the passage of time, the search for these fugitives is far from over. Millions in reward money remain on the table, and the relentless pursuit by federal agents continues across borders and decades. Whether it's cold-blooded murder, high-stakes fraud, or international kidnapping, justice never sleeps, and neither do the people chasing it.